Starting over the top rope, back inside. Thought about the twist of fate.
Both guys, this is dangerous territory. Come on, trying to pull them over together.
Almost got him. They got to pull.
He's still too big.
Professional wrestlers who died young. Unlike any other athletes or sports entertainers, professional wrestlers are more prone to die before the age of 55. For whatever reason, the abuse of their bodies, steroids, hard drugs, partying, long hours, these behemoths of the squared circle end up perishing. Unfortunately, this includes many of the greatest wrestlers of all time. It's almost a strange occupational hazard at this point to be a pro wrestler, considering all the bumps you get in the ring. Moreover, it seems you hear about the deaths of these wrestling giants on a more frequent basis as the sport has grown in popularity and becomes a global brand of entertainment. Many of the stars in this list have competed in the WWE, WCW, ECW, AWA, among others. The men and women on this list of WWE wrestlers that have died have worked in some of the biggest arenas and pay-per-view events in the world. So which wrestlers died young? That's the shame of this list. There are guys like Owen Hart who died during an in-ring stunt, or the tragedy of Chris Benoit and his family, which words can't really do justice. Others, like ANDRÉ the Giant, was a victim of his own size, and ultimately that size was one of the reasons for his great success. The wrestlers on this list all died before their 55th birthday. Though a bit morbid, take a look at the list of dead wrestlers and see who died young. Chyna. Beloved female wrestler Chyna was found dead in her home in Redondo Beach, California, in April 2016. Chyna, whose real name was Joan Laura, was just 45 when she passed away, and police were uncertain as to her cause of death. Chyna entered the professional wrestling scene with a bang in 1996 when she won Rookie of the Year for the Women's Championship. She eventually became the only undefeated female champion in the history of the WWF. She parlayed her success in the ring to success on the screen, appearing in music videos and adult films later in her career.
Speak to me, warrior!
Warrior passed away in Scottsdale, Arizona, the day after appearing on Raw for the first time since 1996, and giving an impassioned speech following his enshrinement in the WWE Hall of Fame and his involvement in WrestleMania 30 weekend. He's survived by his wife Dana and his two daughters, Indiana and Matigan. Randy Savage. Macho Man died after suffering a sudden heart attack while he was behind the wheel of his Jeep Benoit. A tragedy that is still taboo in wrestling circles. Over a 3-day period, Chris Benoit murdered his wife and young son before committing suicide in his weight room in their home. After an examination of Chris Benoit's brain, it was found that repeated concussions had caused significant damage and led to dementia, which can cause behavioral problems. Similar studies have been performed on ex-NFL players that have hurt themselves or others, and they largely reach the same conclusion. WWE even aired a tribute to Benoit when they learned of his sudden passing, only to bury the episode completely once the company learned the full story behind Benoit's. Miss Elizabeth. Miss Elizabeth died in Marietta, Georgia. 911 was called by Lex Luger. She was rushed to the hospital and pronounced dead. The cause of acute toxicity from a mixture of painkillers and vodka is officially listed.
Elizabeth!
Eddie Guerrero was found unresponsive in his Minneapolis, Minnesota hotel room by his nephew and longtime tag team partner Chavo Guerrero Jr. Chavo tried CPR, but Eddie was pronounced dead when the paramedics arrived on the scene. An autopsy revealed that the cause of death was acute heart failure. He was posthumously inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. Mr. Perfect. Mr. Perfect was found dead in a Florida hotel room. The medical examiners concluded that cocaine intoxication was the cause of death. He was survived by his parents, Larry and Irene, his brothers Randy and Jesse, his two sisters Sandra and Susan, his wife Leonise, and his children Joe, Hank, Amy and Katie. He was posthumously inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. Owen Hart. Owen fell to his death at the Over the Edge WWE pay-per-view event while being lowered to the ring in a harness via grapple line. Hart fell approximately 78 feet and landed on the top rope and was flung into the ring. The cause of death was internal bleeding due to the fall, one of the worst, if not the worst, tragedy in wrestling history. André the Giant. André died in his sleep of congestive heart failure in a Paris hotel room. He was in Paris for his father's funeral. His ashes were later scattered at his North Carolina ranch. Brian Christopher.
Here I am with Too Cool, Scotty Too Hotty, Grandmaster Sexay. Guys, it's great to see you back in action after a few years off. Tell me, how did it feel to be in the ring tonight with the Ascension?
Well, I'll tell you what, it wasn't no walk in the park. Those guys...
Brian Christian Lawler, best known as Grandmaster Sexay of the WWF, now WWE, died on July 29, 2018, at the age of 46, reportedly of suicide. As a member of the tag team Too Cool, Lawler got his wrestling start back in 1988, joining WWF in 1997. Big Boss Man. Raymond Taylor Jr. died from a heart attack in his home in Dallas, Georgia. Balls Mahoney. Jonathan Reckner, best known as Balls Mahoney, was only 44 when he passed away suddenly. The cause of his death was not immediately known, but people close to the Extreme Championship wrestling favourite said he had recently gotten ill after a bad fall at his home. His tag team partner, Axel Rotten, was also just 44 when he was found dead in a hotel only months earlier. Sherri Martel. Sensational Sherri died in her mother's McCalla, Alabama home. Toxicology reports indicate that she died from an overdose, with a multitude of drugs in her system, including high amounts of oxycodone. Mike Awesome. Mike Awesome was found dead by a group of his friends after he hanged himself in his Tampa, Florida home.
Altering, he did go into his backyard. That's Mike Awesome. Unbelievable. The former multi-time ECW World Heavyweight Champion, Mike Awesome, 6'5", 290 pounds, and he's the newest member of the.
Andrew Martin. Andrew Martin was found dead in his Tampa, Florida home after a neighbor called the police in concern. The neighbor could see Martin's body motionless for several hours through one of his windows. When police arrived, it was believed that he had actually passed away the day before from an oxycodone overdose. An autopsy also revealed that Martin had suffered the same kind of brain damage as Chris Benoit. John Earthquake Tenta. Tenta passed away after a battle with bladder cancer that eventually spread to his lungs. Nancy Benoit. Nancy Benoit died in her home after being strangled to death by her husband Chris Benoit. Chris also smothered and killed their young son Daniel. After murdering his family, Chris Benoit hanged himself in his home gym. Big John Studd. After a long battle with cancer and various complications from a large tumour in his chest, John Minton died from liver cancer and Hodgkin's disease. Rick Rude. An autopsy report showed that Rick Rude died of heart failure from mixed medications. At the time of his death, he was training to return to the ring. He's survived by his wife Michelle and his 3 children. Davey Boy Smith. The British Bulldog died while on vacation in British Columbia with his girlfriend after suffering a heart attack. It's believed that his past steroid use played a role in his death. He had wrestled a series of tag team matches with his son the weekend before. Yokozuna. Rodney Anoa'i died in a hotel room in Liverpool, England while on an independent wrestling tour. The cause of death was widely reported to be a heart attack, but it was actually a pulmonary edema. An autopsy showed a build-up of fluid in his lungs. At the time of his death, Yokozuna weighed 580 pounds. Bam Bam Bigelow. Bam Bam was found dead in his Florida home by his girlfriend. The autopsy revealed that his death was caused by an overdose of multiple drugs in his system, including cocaine and anti-anxiety medication. It was also known that he had cardiovascular disease. Junkyard Dog. Sylvester Ritter died in a single car crash accident after falling asleep at the wheel. He was driving home after his daughter's high school graduation. Road Warrior Hawk. Michael Hedstrom died in his sleep from a sudden heart attack in his Florida home. He was found unresponsive by his wife after he told her he felt tired and was going to take a nap. Brian Pillman. Pillman was found dead by maids in his hotel room the day that he was supposed to wrestle Dude Love, Mick Foley, at the WWE pay-per-view Bad Blood. The cause of death was later revealed to be a heart condition. Kerry Von Erich. Kerry committed suicide at his father's ranch in Texas by shooting himself in the heart. 2 of his brothers also committed suicide. Luna Vachon. Gertrude Vachon was found dead in a Florida home. It was ruled that she died from an overdose of oxycodone and benzodiazepine. Investigators found crushed pill residue and snorting straws at various locations around her home. She'd previously entered drug rehab paid for by WWE. Viscera. Nelson Fraser Jr. died of a heart attack 4 days after his 43rd birthday. Chris Candido. According to his brother Johnny, Candido died from a blood clot that was a complication from surgery. He was also diagnosed with pneumonia and had his lungs drained shortly before his death. Dino Bravo. Adolfo Bresciano was shot 17 times while watching a hockey game in his home. It's largely believed that his role in an illegal cigarette smuggling business in Canada and dealings with the mob are to blame for this unsolved murder. Brian Adams. Adams was found unconscious in bed by his wife in their Florida home. He was pronounced dead by paramedics when they arrived. Hercules Hernandez. Raymond Fernandez died in his sleep at his home. His wife claims that his death has been attributed to heart disease. Crash Holly. Mike Lockwood died at fellow wrestler Steven Richards' home in Florida. He was discovered in a pool of vomit with empty bottles of Kerisperodol around him. He'd recently received divorce papers from his wife and his death was ruled a suicide. The cause of death was choking on his own vomit. Brad Armstrong. Armstrong was found dead in his Georgia home. It's speculated that a heart attack was the cause of death.
He's in there against the 17, nearly 8.
Doug Furness. Furness's body was found at his Arizona home. His exact date of death could not be accurately measured by examiners because of the rate of decomposition, but he was believed to have been dead for weeks before he was found. The official cause of death was heart disease.
30 states, every promotion you can think of, he's been there, he's done it.
Peter Maivia. Maivia died from cancer. Adrian Adonis. Keith Frank died when a car he was travelling in with fellow wrestlers swerved to avoid a moose and drove into a lake. Of the men in the car, Mike Kelly, Pat Kelly, Dave McKigney and Frank, only Mike Kelly survived. Mike Kelly was also the driver. Umaga. Eddie Fatu was found not breathing with blood coming out of his nose after suffering a heart attack. He was rushed to the hospital where he suffered a second heart attack. The official cause of death was acute toxicity from the combined effects of hydrocodone, Kerisperodol and diazepam. Johnny Grunge. Johnny Grunge died in his home in Georgia from complications caused by sleep apnea. He's survived by his wife and 2 sons. Giant Gonzalez. George Gonzalez passed away from complications caused by diabetes.
As a Giant Gonzalez at 460 pounds and a great deal of trouble, reeled back into the ring.
Bastion Booger. Mike Shaw died of a heart attack. Lance Cade. Lance McNaught died of heart failure in San Antonio, Texas. It was later found that an accidental overdose of mixed drugs caused his heart to stop.
And confronted BOOGER.
Chris Kanyon. Chris was found dead in his Queens, New York apartment by his brother. He'd committed suicide by overdosing on antidepressants. He left behind a note and apology to his family. Ludwig Borger. Tony Halm died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound from an unlicensed handgun. His body was found 2 days later. Mariana Komlos. Komlos died of breast cancer.
And the combined weight here is, I mean, you're looking at almost 800 pounds combined weight. That's
Between two people.
This will be 20,000 pounds.
The whole front row.
Jerry Tweet. Tweet was found unconscious in his hotel room by A11 Japan Pro Wrestling management and other wrestlers, including La Parka. He was rushed to hospital where he was pronounced dead due to an apparent heart attack. Moondog Spot. Larry Booker died of a heart attack in the ring during Jerry Lawler's birthday bash show in Memphis, Tennessee. Anthony Durant. Durant and his girlfriend died of a drug overdose in their home. They weren't found until days later. All the while, their 21-month-old boy and 8-month-old girl were in the house. Rocco Rock. Ted Petty died of a heart attack. Big Dick Dudley. Alex Rizzo was found dead in his apartment due to kidney failure. Chris Adams. Adams was fatally shot in the chest in a drunken brawl with a friend. The friend, Brent Parnell, claimed self-defense and was acquitted of all charges. Rhonda Singh. Singh died from a heart attack. Terry Gordy. Gordy died of a heart attack caused by a blood clot. Bobby Duncan Jr. While recovering from rotator cuff surgery, Duncan accidentally overdosed on the painkillers prescribed to him by his doctor. Rick Wilson. Wilson committed suicide shortly following his release from WCW. Giant Haystacks. Martin Ruan died at his home from cancer. He left behind his wife and his 3 sons. Louis Spicoli. Spicoli died after overdosing on soma and wine. The cause of death was choking on his own vomit in his sleep. Dick Murdoch. Murdoch died of heart failure. Eddie Gilbert. Eddie Gilbert died of a heart attack. He also had a history of painkiller abuse that could have contributed to his heart condition. Jerry Black. Art Barr. Barr was found dead in his home, lying on the ground with his child. His death is reported to be of both unknown circumstances and also as a drug-related heart attack. Uncle Elmer. Stanley Fraser had diabetes and ultimately passed away due to kidney failure, a complication of his diabetes. Buzz Sawyer. Sawyer died from heart failure caused by an overdose. Fellow wrestler Billy Jack Haynes claimed that his death was a well-planned hit. The 2 of them were part-time drug smugglers in the Pacific Northwest at the time. Bruiser Brody. Bruiser Brody was stabbed to death in the locker room showers at a show by a fellow wrestler, Jose Gonzalez. Mike Von Erich. Von Erich committed suicide by overdosing on alcohol and sleeping pills. He was found 4 days later. Gino Hernandez. His death was ruled as an accidental cocaine overdose, but to this day many maintain that Hernandez was murdered in a drug-related incident via the cocaine overdose. Rick McGraw. Rick McGraw passed away from a drug-related heart attack. Many wrestling fans believe that he took such a beating from Rowdy Roddy Piper a few days before his death that is in some way contributed, but that's not how professional wrestling works. David Von Erich, Doink the Clown. Matt Osborne died from an accidental overdose of morphine and hydrocodone. He was found dead in his Plano, Texas apartment that he shared with his girlfriend. Tony Atlas rushed to Brody's side and carried him to the ambulance. Atlas claims to have seen Gonzalez holding the knife, but Gonzalez has been acquitted of all charges.